So this is great. I love talking about savings and how soon can we save money, right? Um, and everyone here is obviously exposed to the cloud, and we know that essentially every minute costs you. Um, Costs in the cloud happen in real time. That's the beauty and bane of being in the cloud. You're charged for every single second you use or minute per minute billing. Any delays in optimizing just compounds that waste, right? So if you identify an unused EBS volume on day one, but it takes you 30 days to clean that up, that's essentially a lot of wasted money that you could have done, you could have saved. And we all know that teams often move at a pace that is not ideal for optimization, right? We want them to move faster, but the reality is things do take time. You need to get the proper approvals. You need to have resources assigned to take care of that. So there are a variety of reasons why things take time, but all that time is accumulating more and more waste and costing you and your company more money. And then oftentimes what you find is there are guardrails that you could easily put up that could prevent it. And those lack of guardrails contribute to that financial waste, and that financial waste grows over time. So, what do delays actually cost you? I don't know how many of you actually measure your waste or savings opportunity in amounts of time. I often look at it in terms of what is that cost for a year, primarily because it just provides people a simple context of what that cost would be if you didn't take any action. But when you talk about mean time to savings, that actually changes the game and makes it more interesting because now you're on the clock. Your engineers, from detection to notification to action, that gap is their clock to achieve savings, right? So the longer you take, the more waste you have. The shorter you take, you can actually say, hey, you know what? I actually saved this amount of money because on average, maybe it takes 30 days, but through automation or through early action, I cut that down to mere minutes or hours. So what does this mean times to savings? I think a lot of you know mean times to resolution, MTTR, that's a common engineering term. MTTS derives off of that, right? In terms of changes that urgency from minutes to actual dollars. And people understand dollars. It allows companies and organizations to quickly identify the cost savings opportunity. I mean, how many of you have tried to get your teams or other teams to take action? And oftentimes they say, yeah, but I can do that, but my cost per hour is this, and my hour is much more valuable. And that's true, right? An hour, a person's time is a very valuable resource. But what if you could tell them, well, you know what, that hour that you can spend on that or optimizing could save hundreds of thousands of dollars if you take action now versus 30 days, right? It just creates that sense of urgency, that stopwatch, right? Or the countdown. So why track it, right? I think I talked about it. It essentially gamifies and challenges teams to stop waste sooner, right? If once you're measuring that and putting that out there in terms of how long does it take to resolve or to resolve an optimization, right? And quantifying that, there's dollars and cents there. Because engineers are familiar with MTTR, MTTS is an easy leap to, right? So teams, you can show and compare how teams are reacting across the board and gamify it. And then also it helps you identify process bottlenecks. Why is it taking so long to generate these savings or to realize these savings? And then lastly, it also helps you identify your policy maturity, right? Essentially, you want to get to your MTTS to a minute, less than a minute, because you have some automation there that either quickly identifies the issue and resolves it immediately, or even better, prevents the issue from happening in the first place. So how do you measure it, right? There's one way to measure it is really looking at the timestamp of when the opportunity was identified and first detected, right? So that becomes your ground zero, and then identify when that opportunity was realized, and just calculate the difference between the two, and that becomes your duration. Then, if you look at what the cost is, you essentially do the math there, and you can say, hey, on average, if I didn't take any action, this opportunity would have taken 60 days, because I've done something ahead of time, either preventive or detective, some sort of automation. Now it's 1 day, and I've actually saved 29 days times however that daily cost is. And all of that stuff adds up. What's nice about it too is because if you tag your assets right, you can identify, you can segment the opportunities or the MTTS benchmark by team, department, or business unit to see which teams are working efficiently. And those that resolve situations fast will be highlighted, right? You can see what they're doing and learn what those teams are doing. So how does this compare? Benchmarking across teams. This is like one opportunity that MTTS provides, is how are teams doing across different types of waste. So here's an example. You have 3 types of optimization opportunities. You have team 1 and you have team 2, right? Team 2 doesn't have automation or preventive policies, right? It takes them 5 days to delete a snapshot, 60 days to optimize underutilized compute, and 12 months to do an architectural change, right? Architectural changes are hard. You have team 1 here who has some sort of preventive policy or detective policy that automatically remediates an issue, or even just automatically notifying it so someone can take immediate action. That can reduce your time to savings to mere hours or to mere minutes. Same thing with optimizations on compute. Making that visible and driving action to the appropriate teams would reduce that underutilized capacity. And then lastly, we all know that architectural change does take time. So no one's going to say, hey, you know what, you can automate your way into from switching from an x86 to an ARM processor, right? There might be some code changes. But what actually policies do, and mean time to savings, how you can measure that is really how fast can your policies detect these architectural differences, right? And surface it to the team so it can get on their plan of record so they can start working on it, right? Once they know about it, once they know the cost, maybe they can prioritize it, and that architecture might happen sooner than later. So what this shows you really is how you can use data to identify bottlenecks, benchmark teams, encourage teams to lower their MTTS, drive more savings by faster remediation. And so what are some strategies to reduce MTTS? One is really prevention, right? You create policies that actually prevent users from making those mistakes in the first place. So they can't even push code or infrastructure as code into the environment to cause those issues. The second thing is automation, right? Trigger actions faster, identify and automatically remediate, or at least identify so teams can, identify and then create a Jira ticket or a Slack message so teams can quickly take a look at it. And then visibility is really key, right? In terms of understanding where the issues are. Understanding it right away does drive action and encourages people to take that action. And once, I think a lot of you probably have been, you have your checklists, and it's nice to see you check things off. Can you imagine you watching that your opportunity, your savings opportunity is being, you're taking it, you're like, oh yeah, I optimize this, I optimize this, I optimize this. It's a really good feeling to see those costs start going down. You get a nice a rush there, and you feel good that you've driven something to help your company's bottom line. And then lastly, what's really actually, and this is foundational, is really encouraging education, right? By improving the education, letting people know about policies, about what tools you have, what automations that's possible, what preventions you can do. That education can improve the response time, right, to an implementation of these various policies and strategies. So just a few takeaways. If you're going to take away anything from this, every minute is going to cost you in the cloud. I guess also in life, but every minute is going to cost you, and time is money. MTTS really is an easy leap for developers to understand. But the lower the MTTS, the lower the waste, the lower your expense, right? So if there's anything to take away, those are the main 3 points.